Part 3. Dead Man's Switch. The train sat motionless on the rusty tracks of Newkirk Junction, surrounded by nothing but overgrown weeds and abandoned rail cars. 3 minutes had passed since they stopped. 9 minutes remained until whatever the anonymous caller had warned about. Alina needed a plan. She returned to the engineer's cabin, finding both the engineer and conductor staring anxiously out the windows. "There's no medical team coming, is there?" Sarah asked. "No," Alina confirmed. "The quarantine order was fake. Someone wanted this train isolated." "Why?" "That's what I need to figure out." Alina held up the USB drive. "I need to see what's on this." The engineer pointed to an ancient computer in the corner. "That's connected to the train systems, but it has a USB port." Alina inserted the drive. A single file appeared, evidence.pdf. She opened it to find a 47-page scientific report titled Project Chimera, Phase 3 Clinical Trial Results, Confidential. The letterhead showed Genzyme Laboratories, Special Projects Division. The executive summary was highlighted. Trial results confirm compound GZ157 demonstrates 98.7% effectiveness in neutralizing targeted bioweapons when administered prophylactically. Side effects remain significant, see Appendix B, but survival rates are statistically superior to all alternatives. Phase 4 approval recommended despite ethical concerns raised by Dr. E. Reed. Appended to the report was a handwritten note. This is what they were hiding. The side effects aren't significant. They're catastrophic. 38% neurological damage, 27% organ failure. They're rushing this to market anyway. Whistleblower protections apply. J.H. The final pages contained emails between Genzyme executives discussing how to manage the Reed situation and ensure Harrington's cooperation. Alina looked up from the screen. "This is about a pharmaceutical cover-up. Harrington was planning to expose dangerous drug trials." Sarah frowned. "But why stop a train? Why not just deal with him quietly?" "Because he wasn't working alone." Alina recalled the text message. "Don't trust anyone else." "His partner is on this train. Someone with the initial M." The engineer's radio crackled suddenly. A voice came through. "Train 47, this is CDC emergency response. We are approaching your position. Prepare for boarding. All passengers must remain seated." Through the front window, Alina could see black SUVs approaching along a service road. "That's not the CDC," she said with certainty. "Those are private vehicles." The engineer looked panicked. "What do we do?" Alina made a quick decision. "Lock all exterior doors. No one gets on without my authorization. Sarah, make an announcement. All passengers must remain in their seats due to security concerns." As Sarah complied, Alina's mind raced. If Eleanor Reed had worked at Genzyme, she might be involved, either as Harrington's ally or his enemy. And what about Pike, the pharmaceutical researcher? Too much coincidence. Alina needed to find M before the people in those SUVs did. She returned to the passenger cars. The mood had shifted from curiosity to concern. People were standing in the aisles now, looking out windows, checking phones that had no service. "Excuse me," a voice called as Alina passed through the second car. A middle-aged woman with a professor's demeanor raised her hand. "Is it true we're under quarantine?" Before Alina could answer, a man in a business suit several rows back stood up. "This is ridiculous. I have meetings in Boston. You can't just hold us here." Others joined in, voices rising in protest. The situation was deteriorating fast. Alina held up her badge. "NYPD, everyone please remain calm. This is a security situation. The best thing you can do is stay in your seats and—" A deafening boom cut her off. The train shook violently. Emergency lights flashed on as the main power failed. What was that? Someone screamed. Through the windows, Alina saw smoke rising from the front of the train. An explosion. In the chaos that followed, passengers began pushing toward the exits. Alina fought against the tide, trying to reach the engineer's cabin. She found the door blown open, the small compartment in ruins. The engineer lay on the floor, blood pooling beneath him. No sign of Sarah. Alina checked for a pulse. Still alive, but barely. She grabbed the radio, but it was destroyed. Through the shattered front window, she could see armed men in tactical gear approaching the train. Not military, not police, private security moving with precision toward each car. They were here for the evidence, and for whoever M was. Alina pocketed the USB drive and withdrew. She needed to find Sarah and organize an evacuation from the opposite end of the train. But first, she had to locate M before the tactical team did. Back in the passenger cars, panic had taken hold. People were pulling emergency exit handles, unaware that with the power out, the safety override was disabled. The doors remained sealed. "Detective!" It was Jonathan Pike, pushing through the crowd toward her. "What's happening?" "The train's been attacked," Alina said. "I need to find the conductor." She ran toward the back after the explosion. Said something about emergency protocols. Alina nodded. "I need to get to her. Do you know anything about trains? Can you help keep people calm?" Pike's expression was unreadable. "I'll try. But shouldn't we let those men help?" He gestured toward the approaching tactical team. "They look official." "They're not," Alina said firmly. "They're private security. Do not let them board if you can prevent it." She pushed her way toward the rear of the train, scanning faces as she went. Where was Eleanor Reed? And who was M? In the fourth car, she spotted Dr. Reed huddled with a young woman, speaking intently. Reed looked up as Alina approached, her expression a mixture of fear and resolve. "Detective," Reed acknowledged. "I suppose now you believe this isn't about a heart attack." "I know about Project Chimera," Alina said. "And I know Harrington was planning to expose it." Reed's eyes widened slightly. "Then you understand why they can't let anyone off this train alive." "Who's they?" "Meridian Security, the private military arm of Meridian Financial. They're not just bankers, Detective. They fund black site research for pharmaceutical companies, weapons developers. When exposure threatens their investments, they contain the situation." "Like they contained Harrington?" Reed's expression hardened. "James wasn't supposed to be on this train. We had a plan. He was going to deliver the evidence directly to the FBI, but he got spooked, changed the plan at the last minute." "We," Alina seized on the word. "You're working with him." "We both were." The young woman beside Reed spoke up. "I'm Mira Harrington. James was my father." "You're M," Alina realized. Mira nodded. "Dad discovered what his company was really funding. When he found the trial reports showing they were developing biological countermeasures with devastating side effects, he came to me. I work for the Justice Department." "Why not go straight to the authorities?" "We tried," Reed said bitterly. 2 years ago. The investigation was shut down within weeks. Someone at the top is protecting Meridian." The train shook again as another explosion rocked the rear cars. The lights flickered completely out. "They're sealing us in," Reed said. "Standard containment procedure. Make it look like a terrorist attack or mechanical failure. No survivors, no evidence." Alina made a quick decision. "I have the USB drive, but we need to get everyone off this train. Where's the conductor?" "She was heading to the back." "Sarah?" Mira looked confused. "She's not the conductor. The real conductor never boarded this morning." Alina felt a chill. "Then who is she?" "Insurance," came a voice from behind them. Sarah stood in the doorway, but her demeanor had completely changed. Gone was the helpful train employee, replaced by cold efficiency. In her hand was a small pistol. "I'm afraid I can't let you leave with that drive, Detective." Alina tensed, calculating the distance between them, too far to rush her before she could fire. "You killed James Harrington," Alina stated. "A regrettable necessity. He should have minded his own business." Sarah, or whoever she really was, gestured with the gun. "The USB, please." "If I give it to you, you'll kill everyone anyway." "Not everyone, just the three of you. The others are collateral damage. Unfortunate, but unavoidable now." "Emily," Reed addressed her directly. "That is your real name, isn't it?" "Emily Chen, Meridian Security. We work together at Genzyme." The woman's eyes flickered with surprise. "Doctor?" "Reed. Always the observant one." "Yes, we did. Until you became a problem." "Those drug trials were killing people," Reed said. "The neurological damage was an acceptable risk compared to the threat. You of all people should understand that." While they talked, Alina had been inching her hand toward a fire extinguisher mounted on the wall beside her. In one fluid motion, she grabbed it and hurled it at Sarah and Emily. The woman fired, but the heavy canister knocked her aim off. The bullet shattered a window instead. Alina lunged forward, tackling her to the ground. The gun skittered across the floor. Mira scrambled to retrieve it as Alina struggled with the fake conductor. Despite her slight build, the woman was combat-trained. She landed a solid blow to Alina's ribs before Alina managed to pin her arms. "It's over," Alina said, breathing hard. "Your team outside can't help you now." A cold smile spread across the woman's face. "You think the team is the threat? Check your watch, Detective." Alina glanced at her wrist. 8:59 a.m., almost exactly 12 minutes since the anonymous call. "You stopped the train," Emily continued, "exactly where we wanted it, directly over the old Newkirk chemical storage facility. In 30 seconds, charges planted there last night will detonate. This entire area will be engulfed in toxic smoke. A tragic industrial accident that destroyed a passing train." Reed grabbed Alina's shoulder. "She's bluffing." "Am I? Why do you think we chose this route? This location?" Emily laughed. "You can't stop it. Dead man's switch. If I don't enter a code every 2 minutes, it detonates automatically." Alina yanked the woman to her feet. "Enter the code." "Too late. Even if I wanted to, the receiver was in the engineer's cabin. It's destroyed now." Mira, who had been frantically checking her phone, looked up. "I've got signal. 1 bar." "Call for help," Alina ordered, maintaining her grip on Emily. "No time," Reed said. She turned to the frightened passengers who had witnessed the confrontation. "Everyone move to the front cars now, as far from this position as possible." As people began to push forward, Alina heard the distinctive sound of breaking glass from multiple cars. Smoke grenades. The tactical team was making their move. "They're coming aboard," Alina said. "We need to move." "Wait," Emily said, suddenly desperate. "You can't leave me here. If that charge goes off—" "You should have thought of that before setting a dead man's switch." Alina handcuffed her to a seat. "The code. Last chance. 5-1-9-3- on the engineer's console. Hurry!" Alina looked to Reed. "Get everyone as far forward as possible. Mira, if you get signal again, call this in." She handed Mira the USB drive. "This is what they want. Keep it safe." With that, Alina sprinted toward the front of the train, pushing past terrified passengers. The tactical team would be methodically clearing each car, which gave her a small window of time. She reached the engineer's cabin, now filled with smoke from the initial explosion. The engineer was where she'd left him, still breathing but unconscious. The console was a mess of shattered screens and sparking wires. In the center was a small keypad, miraculously intact. The display showed a countdown, 00:12, 00:11. Alina punched in the code, 5193 Chimera. The display flashed red. Invalid code. Emily had lied. Of course she had. 009-0008. Alina looked around desperately. The USB drive. Maybe it contained the real code, but she'd given it to Mira. 0006. 0005. She spotted the engineer's tablet on the floor. It was still connected to the train's systems. If she couldn't stop the bomb, maybe she could move the train. The emergency override required an authorization code, which she didn't have, but the engineer might. She checked his pockets, finding a wallet, keys, and, yes, an ID badge with a 6-digit number printed on the back. 0004-003. Alina entered the code, 835721. The tablet unlocked. She frantically navigated to the emergency systems menu and found the manual override for the brakes. 0002-0001. She released the brake and pushed the throttle forward, praying the damaged engine would respond. The train lurched forward just as the timer hit 0. Behind them, the ground erupted. A massive explosion tore through the old chemical facility, sending debris and toxic smoke into the sky. The concussive force rocked the train, shattering windows in the rear cars. But they were moving, gradually picking up speed, pulling away from the worst of the blast. Through the fractured windshield, Alina could see the tactical team retreating to their vehicles, their mission abandoned in the face of the explosion. They hadn't expected the train to move. Alina checked the engineer, still alive, but needing immediate medical attention. She grabbed the emergency medical kit and did what she could to stabilize him. Her phone buzzed. 1 bar of signal. "Voss," she answered. "Detective?" It was Mira. "We're in the second car. Most passengers are here. Are you all right?" "I'm alive. The engineer needs help. What's your situation?" "Doctor. Reed is treating the injured. The tactical team tried to board, but they retreated when the explosion happened." "And Emily?" A pause. "She's gone. When the explosion hit, she somehow slipped the handcuffs, but she won't get far. Reed recognized one of her team leaders. They'll have her face on every database within the hour." "Stay where you are. I've got the train moving, but I don't know for how long. First station we reach, we evacuate." As Alina ended the call, she noticed a blinking message on the tablet. Incoming communication. She tapped it. A video call connected, revealing a stern-faced man in a pristine office. The nameplate on his desk read, "Edward Meridian, CEO." "Detective Voss," he said, his voice calm but cold. "I'm impressed. Not many people survive a Meridian security containment operation." "Murder," Alina corrected. "You call it containment. The law calls it murder." Meridian smiled thinly. "Semantics. What matters now is what happens next. You have evidence that doesn't belong to you. Return it, and this ends today." "It ends with you in prison," Alina replied. "For James Harrington's murder, for attempted mass murder, for illegal weapons research." Noble sentiments. But you're operating on incomplete information. Project Chimera isn't what you think. We're not developing weapons. We're defending against them. The world is more dangerous than you know, detective. Save it for your trial. Meridian's expression hardened. There won't be a trial. Even now, our people are securing the site. The explosion will be attributed to aging infrastructure. No evidence will remain of our involvement. Except the USB drive and 3 witnesses. For now. Meridian leaned forward. "This is your final opportunity, detective. The next train station is 17 minutes away. Our team will be waiting. If you haven't surrendered the evidence by then, we can't guarantee the safety of the passengers." The screen went black. Alina set the tablet down, mind racing. The train was moving, but for how much longer? The damage to the engine was severe, and 17 minutes wasn't much time to formulate a plan. She made her way back to the passenger cars, finding most people gathered in the second car, as Mira had said. Dr. Reed had organized an impromptu triage center, treating minor injuries from the explosion. Jonathan Pike was helping, surprisingly competent with first aid. "Detective," Pike acknowledged as she approached. "Did you stop the bomb?" "Not exactly," Alina replied. "But we got away from the worst of it. How are the passengers?" "Scared, but no life-threatening injuries. What's our next move?" Alina pulled Reed, Mira, and Pike aside. "Meridian's CEO just contacted me. They'll have people at the next station. We need a plan." "We can't stop," Mira said. "If we do, they'll kill everyone." "If we don't, the train might stop itself," Reed pointed out. "The engine's damaged. I can smell the burning electronics from here." Pike had been silent, his expression thoughtful. "There's another option. The old Harlem River Junction. It's a maintenance switch about 2 miles before the station. If we can divert there, we can avoid their reception committee." Alina studied him. "How do you know about that?" "I commute this route 3 times a week. You learn things." He shrugged. "The switch is manual. Someone would need to exit the train to throw it." "In a moving train?" Reed looked skeptical. "We'll slow down," Alina decided. "I'll jump and throw the switch." "Not alone," Pike said firmly. "You'll need help." Alina was reluctant to trust him completely, but time was short and options limited. "Fine. Dr. Reed, stay with the passengers. Mira, guard the USB. If anything happens to us, get that evidence to the FBI, directly to the field office. No intermediaries." Reed nodded. "The junction is near the Harlem River. If you can stop the train there, we might be able to evacuate across the old maintenance bridge." "One problem at a time," Alina said. "First, let's make sure Meridian's team isn't waiting for us." She and Pike made their way to the rear of the train. The last car was empty, most passengers having moved forward after the explosion. Through the shattered rear window, they could see the tracks stretching behind them. The train was moving at about 30 miles per hour, too fast to jump safely. "We need to slow it down," Pike said. "Can you access the brakes from here?" "Not without the engineer's tablet, which I left up front, but there's an emergency brake in each car." Pike looked doubtful. "Won't that stop us completely? We'd be sitting ducks." "Not if we release it immediately after," Alina explained. "It'll slow us down enough to jump, but we can keep moving. Risky." "Got a better idea?" Pike conceded the point. They positioned themselves near the rear door, which had been damaged in the explosion and was hanging partially open. "On 3, Alina said, hand on the emergency brake. 1, 2, 3. She pulled the lever. The train screeched in protest, rapidly decelerating. When it had slowed to about 10 miles per hour, they leapt from the doorway, landing hard on the gravel beside the tracks. Alina released the brake remotely using the engineer's code she had memorized. The train continued forward, gradually picking up speed again. "This way," Pike said, pointing to a service path that ran parallel to the tracks. "The junction should be about half a mile ahead." They ran, acutely aware that the train was outpacing them. If they couldn't reach the switch in time, their plan would fail. The junction came into view, a simple manual switch that could divert trains to a secondary track leading away from the main line. "There!" Pike pointed. But as they approached, Alina noticed something that made her blood run cold. A small device was attached to the switch mechanism. A bomb. "Stop!" she shouted to Pike. "It's rigged!" Pike halted, staring at the device. How did they know? They didn't, Alina realized. They've booby-trapped all potential escape routes. Standard containment procedure, right? She approached cautiously, examining the device without touching it. Simple but effective, any attempt to throw the switch would trigger the explosive. "Can you disarm it?" Pike asked. "Not in the 2 minutes we have before the train reaches us?" Pike looked up at the approaching train, then back at the device. What if we trigger it deliberately, from a safe distance? Alina saw his logic immediately. The explosion would damage the switch, but the default position is main line. We need it to divert. What if we trigger it after manually positioning the switch? The explosion might damage the mechanism, but not necessarily change its position. It was risky, but their only option. Alina searched the maintenance shed nearby, finding a length of metal pipe. We can use this to move the switch, then trigger the bomb from cover. Working quickly, they positioned themselves on opposite sides of the switch. Using the pipe, they could manipulate the lever without standing directly over the explosive. "Ready?" Alina called. The train was visible now, perhaps a minute away. Pike nodded. Together they pushed the lever, feeling the resistance as the old switch began to move. Halfway through, there was an ominous click. "Down!" Alina shouted, diving for cover behind the maintenance shed. Pike followed an instant before the device detonated. The explosion was smaller than expected, designed to kill whoever was throwing the switch, not destroy the tracks. When the smoke cleared, Alina saw the switch had completed its movement. The tracks were now aligned to the secondary line. The train approached, slowing as it reached the damaged section of track. For a heart-stopping moment, Alina thought it might derail, but it navigated the junction, wheels grinding over the bent metal, and continued on to the secondary track. "It worked," Pike said, helping Alina to her feet. "Now we need to get back on board." They ran alongside the tracks as the train slowed further, damaged engines struggling with the incline of the secondary line. When it had decreased to a crawl, they managed to pull themselves aboard through the same damaged door they'd exited from. Inside, they found Reed and Mira waiting anxiously. "You did it," Mira said with relief. "We're off the main line." "Where does this track lead?" Alina asked. "An old maintenance yard by the Harlem River," Reed answered. "Abandoned now, but the tracks are still maintained for emergency use." "And the bridge you mentioned?" "About a quarter-mile from where the tracks end. It's old, but it should hold for foot traffic." The train lurched suddenly, then began to decelerate rapidly. The damaged engine had finally given out. Through the windows, Alina could see they had entered a small rail yard. Rusted freight cars sat on parallel tracks. Beyond them, the silhouette of a bridge spanned the dark water of the Harlem River. As the train ground to a halt, Alina turned to the others. "We need to evacuate everyone now. That bridge is our only way out." Reed nodded. "I'll organize the passengers. There are about 24 injured who'll need help." "I'll coordinate that," Pike offered. "Get the able-bodied to assist the injured." "Mira, stay with me," Alina said. "We need to protect that evidence until we're safely across." As Reed and Pike began the evacuation, Alina's phone suddenly regained signal. Multiple messages appeared, most notably, an alert from her captain. "Meridian security personnel reported at all major train stations. Approach with caution, back up en route to your GPS location." "They found us," Alina told Mira. "We need to move fast." Outside, the evacuation was proceeding remarkably smoothly. Pike had organized passengers into groups, with the strongest helping the injured. Reed was treating the most serious cases on the spot before allowing them to move. The bridge loomed ahead, an old iron structure spanning the river. On the far side was Hunt's Point in the Bronx, and beyond that, safety. But as the first group of passengers reached the bridge, headlights appeared on the service road leading to the rail yard. Black SUVs, identical to those at Newkirk Junction. "They're here," Mira said, clutching the USB drive. Alina made a quick decision. "Get everyone on that bridge now. Run." The orderly evacuation turned into a desperate scramble as passengers realized the danger. The tactical team deployed from their vehicles, moving with military precision to surround the area. Alina spotted a familiar face among them, Emily, the fake conductor, now dressed in tactical gear. She was directing the team, pointing toward the bridge. They'll cut us off before everyone can cross, Alina realized. We need a diversion. Pike appeared beside her. I'll stay and hold them off. With what? We're unarmed. He reached into his jacket and produced a small handgun. Not entirely. Alina stared at him. You had that the whole time? Who are you really? A tight smile. Let's just say Meridian isn't the only organization with interests in Project Chimera. Now go. Get those people across. Before Alina could question him further, Pike moved toward the approaching team, taking cover behind a freight car. He fired 2 precise shots, forcing the tactical team to scatter for cover. It bought precious time. Alina herded the remaining passengers toward the bridge, where Reed was directing traffic. The first groups had already reached the far side and were continuing toward the streets beyond. Detective, Reed called as Alina approached. We've got a problem. The bridge won't hold much longer. Those last explosions damaged the support structure. Alina looked up. The old iron bridge was indeed showing signs of stress, swaying slightly under the weight of so many people. How many more to cross? About 50. We need 10 minutes. A firefight had broken out between Pike and the tactical team. He was outnumbered, but holding his position effectively, keeping them pinned down near their vehicles. We may not have 10 minutes, Alina said. She turned to Mira. Go with the next group. Get that evidence to safety. Mira hesitated. What about you? I'll make sure everyone gets across. Go. As Mira joined the next group crossing the bridge, Alina heard police sirens in the distance. Backup was coming, but would it arrive in time? The tactical team was advancing despite Pike's resistance. They had split into 2 groups, one engaging Pike while the other circled toward the bridge. Alina spotted Emily leading the flanking group. If they reached the bridge, they could cut off the escape route. Without a weapon, Alina's options were limited, but she wasn't defenseless. She grabbed a flare from the emergency kit she'd taken from the train and ignited it. The bright red light illuminated the area, temporarily blinding the approaching team. Alina used the distraction to rush toward a stack of old maintenance equipment near the bridge entrance. Finding a rusty crowbar, she positioned herself at the bridge access point. As Emily's team recovered and advanced, Alina stood her ground. This ends now, Emily called. You're only delaying the inevitable. Backup is 2 minutes out, Alina replied. Your containment operation has failed. Emily laughed. You think local police scare Meridian? We operate with federal clearance. Not for murder, not for this. The last group of passengers was crossing the bridge now. Only Reed remained, helping a limping elderly man. Emily raised her weapon. Step aside, detective. Last warning. Alina held her position. Federal clearance doesn't include shooting a police officer. For a moment, Emily hesitated, the first crack in her professional demeanor. It was all Alina needed. She hurled the still-burning flare directly at Emily's face. The woman flinched, firing instinctively, but missing her target. Alina charged, swinging the crowbar with all her strength. The blow connected with Emily's arm, sending her weapon flying. The rest of her team hesitated, unsure whether to fire with their leader in the fray. Alina and Emily grappled at the bridge entrance, neither gaining a clear advantage. Emily was combat-trained, but Alina had the desperation of someone protecting hundreds of lives. You don't understand what you're interfering with, Emily hissed as they struggled. Project Chimera is national security. Those side effects Reed is so concerned about, they're acceptable compared to the alternative. What alternative? Alina demanded, blocking a strike. War. Biological war. Genzyme developed the countermeasure. Without it, millions die when the attack comes. What attack? From whom? Emily's eyes narrowed. You think Russia and China stopped their bioweapons programs just because they signed a treaty? Chimera is our only defense. A loud crack interrupted them. Not gunfire, but the sound of metal under stress. The bridge was beginning to fail. Reed and the last passenger had reached the midpoint. They needed more time. Alina made her decision. She shoved Emily back, then raced onto the bridge. "Everyone run! It's collapsing." Reed understood immediately. She practically carried the elderly man, moving as fast as his condition allowed. The tactical team had regrouped and was approaching the bridge entrance, but they stopped short, recognizing the danger. The structure was visibly swaying now, metal groaning in protest. Alina reached Reed and helped with the elderly man. Together, they staggered toward the far side where the last of the passengers were clearing the exit. Behind them, Emily had made a fateful decision. Despite the obvious danger, she stepped onto the bridge in pursuit. "Stop!" her team leader shouted. "It won't hold!" But Emily was beyond rationality, fixated on her mission. She advanced onto the failing structure, weapon raised. "The drive!" she shouted. "Where is it?" "Gone," Alina called back. "Already across. You've lost, Emily." A final, devastating crack echoed across the river as a main support cable snapped. The bridge lurched violently. Alina, Reed, and the elderly man were nearly at the end. With a desperate surge of energy, they leapt the final few feet to solid ground just as the section behind them gave way. Emily's scream was cut short as she plunged into the dark water below, along with a sizable portion of the bridge. On the far bank, police cars were arriving in force. Ambulances, too. The passengers of Train 47 were finally safe. Pike was nowhere to be seen, vanished during the chaos, but his diversion had saved countless lives. Alina found Mira surrounded by police officers, the USB drive secure in an evidence bag. "It's over," Alina told her, watching as Emily's tactical team surrendered to the overwhelming police presence across the river. "Your father's evidence is safe." "Not just his evidence," Mira said quietly. "His legacy. He gave his life to expose this." Reed joined them, exhausted but satisfied. "Meridian won't recover from this. Once the public learns what they've been funding—" "But what if Emily was telling the truth?" Alina asked. "About the bioweapons threat." Reed's expression was grim. "The threat is real, but Chimera isn't the answer. It kills almost as many as it saves. There are better approaches, ethical ones. That's what James and I were working on before Meridian decided we were a liability." In the distance, more sirens approached. FBI, based on Mira's earlier call. The case was about to become much bigger than a single detective could handle. Alina looked back at the ruined bridge and the train beyond it, the 712 to nowhere that had nearly become a tomb for 247 souls. The morning's first rays of sunlight broke over the horizon, illuminating the scene in gold. A new day. For the passengers of Train 47, a day they nearly didn't live to see. "Detective?" Mira touched her arm. "Thank you. For believing us. For saving everyone." Alina nodded, watching as medical personnel attended to the injured passengers. "Your father left that note for a reason. He knew someone would find it. He trusted that they'd do the right thing." "A leap of faith," Reed murmured. "Sometimes that's all we have," Alina replied. As FBI agents approached to take their statements, Alina reflected on the events that had brought them here. A simple train ride transformed into a battle for survival, a corporate conspiracy exposed, lives lost and saved. And it had all begun with a note hidden in a dead man's tie. "This man did not die alone, and I will be next." James Harrington had been right about one thing. He hadn't died alone. His murderers had joined him in death, and his truth, the truth he died protecting, would now be heard by the world. The 712 to nowhere had reached its final destination after all. Justice. Epilogue. 1 month later, Alina Voss stood in a federal courthouse as Edward Meridian was led away in handcuffs. The evidence on James Harrington's USB drive had proven devastating, not just to Project Chimera, but to the entire network of black site research Meridian Financial had been funding. The press called it the scandal of the decade. Congressional hearings were ongoing. Genzyme Laboratories had been shuttered pending a complete investigation. Dr. Eleanor Reed had been vindicated. Her ethical concerns, dismissed for years, were now being studied as a framework for responsible pharmaceutical research. She had accepted a position with the CDC, overseeing the development of ethical countermeasures to biological threats. Mira Harrington had returned to the Justice Department with a promotion. Her work with the evidence her father had gathered had earned her recognition at the highest levels. Jonathan Pike remained a mystery. Despite extensive searches, no record of him existed at Novartis or any other pharmaceutical company. The consensus among federal investigators was that he had been an intelligence operative, possibly CIA, monitoring Project Chimera independently. His intervention had saved countless lives, but his true identity and allegiance remained unknown. As for Emily Chen, her body had been recovered from the Harlem River. With her died many of Meridian's secrets, but enough remained in the evidence to ensure justice was served. Alina had received a commendation from the department, along with offers to join federal task forces. But she had declined. The ordinary cases, the everyday mysteries, those were where she belonged. As she left the courthouse, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Some trains are still running off the tracks. When you're ready for the next journey, look beneath the seat where it all began. P." Alina smiled slightly. Pike. Still out there. Still fighting his own battles. Perhaps their paths would cross again someday. Until then, she had a city to protect and mysteries to solve. The 712 to nowhere had been just one journey. Many more awaited. The end.